I'm going to talk about the basics of using automation in Pro Tools. Automation is a way where you can record your mix moves, whether it's volume or panning, muting, or even any plugins that you put in, as opposed to using the volume view or mute view or pan view to go in and add breakpoints and adjust them and create changes that way. Automation allows you to do it live in real time. It gives you a little bit more of a organic feel to your mixing, and once you get used to it, it's a lot quicker. First, I want to talk about some of the behaviors of automation in Pro Tools. I'm going to switch to the volume view, and you'll notice as I bring this fader up and down, the volume line in total goes up and down. That's because there's no automation written onto this entire volume line. You'll see a point at the very beginning, but nowhere else on the timeline will you see a point. And that's why fader moves are going to adjust the entire track. However, if I command click here and put in a breakpoint, notice what happens. As I bring this down, it doesn't adjust the entire volume line. In fact, if I press play, it jumps back up to the value it was set at. So that's an important thing to know about automation. When you have no automation written, in other words, no breakpoints written anywhere in your entire timeline except the very beginning, you're going to be able to make these adjustments that adjust the entire track. As soon as you have a breakpoint, or a series of breakpoints, any adjustment's not going to adjust the entire track. In fact, as you press play, it'll just follow the automation that's written. If you notice, our fader right now is following this automation that I have written here. That's an important thing to know about automation, and it applies not just to volume automation, but mute, pan, send automation, as well as plugin automation. I'm going to start by just talking about the basic settings that you need to know. I set up the screen just to make it easier to do this by having our edit window on one side, and then I brought up the mix window on the other side, just resized them so we can see the two tracks I have, both in the edit window and in the mix window. If we go to Window, Automation, or you can use the Command 4 shortcut. It brings up the automation window. This is the basic one that you see in the basic Pro Tools versions. In the Burt suite or the Ernie suite where we have HD, you'll notice that it's actually a little bit more extensive. You have some more features. So if we look at this automation window, you'll see that you have the option to enable all the different parameters, and by turning these on, these allow all of these parameters to be written. So if I have volume enabled, when I'm playing and I'm making some volume adjustments, it's going to record that. Plugin, it'll record that. Pan, mute. S volume is send volume, send pan, and send mute. You also have a suspend switch, which suspends all automation from playing back. It's best to leave all these options not engaged and just turn on the ones that you want, because you can easily write over automation you already did if you have a parameter engaged that you don't want to be engaged for that particular automation pass. The other options that you need to know about regarding automation are the automation modes for each track. You can access them by clicking here in the edit window or here in the mix window. The 5 options that you have in basic Pro Tools are off. What that means is Pro Tools won't read any automation that's written onto the track, but it'll play back at whatever value you currently have set. Read means it'll read any automation that's on the track if you make any adjustments while it's reading that, it'll just pop right back to its automated value. I'll show you an example of that.
Cough and cough. And you just can't stop coughing. And after a month or so.
Notice how the volume kept on popping back up because that was the automated value. Touch is an automation write mode. In touch mode, it doesn't automatically start writing immediately. It'll start writing as soon as you touch an automation control, in this case, the fader. I'm going to switch our view to volume view just so you can see what's going on. So I press play.
The minute you get off.
And here's the automation.
You have a minute where you.
As soon as I touch the fader and bring it down, you'll notice it's not doing anything. Why? Because I need to enable volume. Let's do that again. Play it along. Now you'll see a red volume line in the track. With touch mode, as soon as I let go of the fader, it returns to its original value. So if I drop this fader down all the way, it'll bring it down all the way. As soon as I let it go, as soon as I let go of the mouse, it immediately pops back up again. That's touch mode. Essentially, it writes only when you're touching the control. You can see where this would be really nice to work on the C24 console in BERT, because then you're actually touching an actual fader as opposed to clicking on an image of a fader with your mouse. And of course, this touch mode is going to function the same way if we're talking about pan.
You hold it like, wait a minute.
Okay, notice it's not responding again. Why? Because I need to engage pan. Here we go. And I let it go, and it pops back again. Touch mode is really handy when you have a mix that you're pretty happy with and you just have to make little adjustments along the way. Play it, push up the fader a little bit when it needs to get louder, pull it down when it needs to get lower, and it'll pop back.
The minute you get off that plane, you have a minute where you literally take a breath and you're like you hold it like, wait a minute. You have a period where you get there and you cough and cough and cough, and you just can't stop coughing. And then after a month or so,
this was a mix that was generally pretty good. I was just riding the fader on these particular lines that I thought needed to come up, and as soon as I let go of the fader, it popped back to where it was. That's touch mode. The next mode we have is latch mode. What latch mode does is it latches into the value that you're writing at. I'll show you an example. If I play it and I pull down the fader, and now I let go of the fader, it stays at the level that I left it. That's latch mode, as opposed to touch, where it would immediately pop up as soon as I let go of the fader. Latch mode stays at the value left it. If I stop writing by stopping playback, you'll see that the volume was down where I brought it, and then as soon as we stopped playback, it returned to the volume where it originally was. So that's latch mode. Latch mode is good for initial volume passes where you're not going to be doing a lot of adjusting. You want to kind of get it in a certain area and then let it play through. Then you go back and change it to touch, and you can make adjustments along the way. The final mode is write mode. Write mode could be a little bit dangerous because as soon as you start playing, automation starts writing. So you'll notice my fader was at 0, and it's just writing straight across everything at 0, writing over any automation moves I may have created. So it could be a little bit dangerous, and you have to be careful when you're in write mode. You'll notice, and this is a safety measure, Protools is set up by default to switch to latch mode after you're in write mode, so you don't get stuck in write mode and accidentally write over something. In BERT and in Ernie, you'll notice there are a couple other modes. There's trim mode and latch touch mode, which I'll explain more in depth in another video.